throughout all of America. And is here to share us many great and wonderful stories. We missed you. We're glad you're back. Gary, please welcome Toastmaster Gary up.
Good morning, Toastmasters and distinguished guests. Adventure can be defined as an undertaking of unknown outcome. I've spent the past 5 months traveling across the country with my 5 Huskies, Rudy, Buddy, and Steve. You can see down there. I didn't really have a plan. I wasn't really sure where I was going to go or how long I was going to be there. Having my dogs as the exclusive travel companions was really the best part. Well, them and the shop vac that myself, the RV, and the Huskies had to have a little dance with every day. To be able to see the world through their eyes was incredible. They didn't care about tourist attractions. All they wanted to do was smell all the smells, swim in all the rivers, and climb on all the rocks and mountains. Heading into Skull Island in Tennessee, our first stop was the Samuel T. Bryant Distillery. This place was incredible. The woodwork inside was amazing. It seemed like this simple 3,600 square foot building, but it was a lot different inside than what you would have thought. Speaking with the owner, and I was sipping on a few samples, he told me the story about how his grandfather had owned that land for years and years. And they actually originally had a milling company where they would process and mill wood. All of the wood inside of that building was actually milled by them. They cut down all the trees on the property and then did all of that inside of this building. The owner stood and he looks around and says, you know, I can feel my late grandfather in here every day. The reason for the distillery was spawned by their grandfather's love for craftsmanship, whiskey, and he also loved moonshine. Next, I found my way to Jandeber's Motorsports Park in Okmulgee, Oklahoma. And some of you may know I have a proclivity for motorcycles, especially dirt bikes and motocross tracks, which is essentially a controlled environment with really big jumps. As I walk in the building, I'm greeted by Bob Jandeber. He proceeds to walk over and show me their little mini motorcycle museum. He shows me the bike his grandfather had won a national title on. Shows me the bike his father had raced on. Goes over to the bikes that he raced nationally on, and even the bike that his son raced and rode on. We shared a lot of stories about motorcycle riding, dirt bike tracks, and he told me about the history that they had in the community and even in racing. It wasn't until he started to tell me about the over 5,000 kids that he had personally taught to ride motorcycles that the real meaning of Jandeber's came to light. He was so proud that he had worked with all those kids and instilled the love of motorcycles, encouraging them to play and do things outside and to boost and build their own personal confidence. As we were standing there, this man walks in with his son and he looks over and says, "Hey Bob, I'm not sure if you remember me, but when I was a kid, you taught me how to ride. And now I want you to teach my son how to ride because I want him to learn from the same person who taught me when I was just a little kid." That was quite the cool legacy. From there, I drove into Kansas. Now, if you've never been to Kansas, you have to go there to fully understand. The Great Plains will expand your mind and your grasp on reality of how small we really are. When as far as the eye can see, there is nothing. Nothing but flat land and sky. Mountains, no matter the size, pale in comparison to the expanse. The horizon is on this razor's edge as far as you can see. As I was driving, you could almost imagine these giant robots just walking across the plains. I soon arrived in Newton, Kansas, to the Clausen farm, and I was greeted by this old man that looked as though he was cut from steel and tied together with barbed wire. He simply looks at me and says, "You can put your rig over there so it's not in our way." Once I was parked, he walks over and looks at my trailer. See, that says dog training? You actually make a living doing that? I can honestly say I have never felt more humbled or useless in my entire life. I tried to avoid his stare as I kind of mumbled through my response. Soon there was this little knock on my RV door, and I opened it to this tiny woman that just had this glow about her and kind of smelled like grandma's kitchen. And she looks and she hands me some eggs and a little gift bag and proceeds to say, "Welcome to our farm. We are a family of Mennonites. 3 generations of our family have been feeding America from this land." She had this glow about her. Her eyes just lit up like the sun, and the pride that she had was more than I had ever experienced in my lifetime. True adventure doesn't have a destination. It does include all the sights, the sounds, the smells along the way. Every blade of grass is a sentence, every leaf a paragraph, every branch on a tree was a story. I started out wanting to see sunrises and sunsets from across America in all the different states. What I found instead was all of the stories from the people and the land along the way. Thank you.
Yeah.